So Maryland is no stranger to voter discrimination. This includes previously requiring English literacy tests, property ownership, as well as criminal justice related disenfranchisement laws, some of which are still enforced today. There are also other laws and practices that have either the purpose or effect of discriminating against voters that remain prevalent. Some of the most common examples include redistricting plans that dilute minority voting strength to achieve protection of incumbents. We saw this happen in Baltimore County last year. At-large election systems, polling location plans with too few or too inconvenient sites and inadequate equipment, and failures to provide adequate language assistance. And unfortunately, many voting rights abuses and discriminatory practices and structures persist among Maryland's hundreds of local government entities simply because the legal tools and resources to investigate and prosecute them have been unavailable or too costly. And due to judicial decisions over the last 30 years, especially from an increasingly right-wing Supreme Court, protections under the Federal Voting Rights Act have been chipped away. Supreme Court decisions have struck down the pre-clearance regime that required some jurisdictions around the country to obtain approval before changing their election rules to prevent against discrimination, and otherwise have made it harder for voters of color to protect against voter suppression. And this term, the Supreme Court is poised to decide a case from Alabama that would render Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act altogether unenforceable, which is currently the primary tool to challenge voting discrimination in court and provides the Attorney General and a nationwide private right to action against all existing forms of racial discrimination in voting, regardless of location. So anticipating this outcome and to be proactive during the 2023 legislative session, the ACLU, the Maryland Common Cause, League of Women Voters, and other partners will be working to introduce a bill, a Maryland State Voting Rights Act, building on models enacted recently in New York and California to ensure that the protection of minority voting rights, no matter what damage the right-wing Supreme Court does to undermine the Federal Voting Rights Act.